So this is lecture number 4, Conquest and Hope. And if you think about what we've covered so far, we've taken most aspects of the African American story, sort of all the way up through the end of the 1800s. Some things have brought us up into the 1900s. Well, here, in part 1, we'll be focused on imperialism and black people's involvement in American imperialism. What is imperialism?
Conquering
Right.
other foreign lands, isn't it?
And honestly, I think you'd have had a great answer if you just stopped at your first word. You know? Imperialism at its essence is conquest. It's one nation or group of people taking over and trying to rule another group or place. So in part 1, we'll look at this imperialism and the role that race plays in imperialism of this time period. And then in part 2, we'll sort of come back firmly inside the United States, looking at black people and their communities. And part 2 is in many ways sort of surveying all the progress that black people have made since slavery ended. And we've touched on a lot of this as we've gone through the other lectures, but in part 2, we'll sort of take stock of where we're at and look at all the incredible progress that black people have made despite all the obstacles that American society has put in their path. All right, but first, part 1. And the first thing to realize here is that Europeans were busy building overseas empires in the late 1800s. If you look at the map here, you can note, if you look across the countries of Europe, each country of Europe has its own color, right? And then when you look at the map of Africa, you can find that country's African colonies. So Germany's yellow, right? And then you can look around the world and see Germany's colonies. And France is this kind of ugly green color. Then you can look around Africa and Asia and see France's colonies. So the nations of Europe had been busy conquering the non-white parts of the globe. They had been busy taking over Africa and much of Asia. The map that we're looking at here is from 1900. And you can see by 1900, how much of the continent of Africa does it look like was independent?
It's 0.
Right. Not much. So we're going to start by sort of looking at how this happened, how the conquest of Africa took place. But we'll just be able to give it a sort of far less attention than it really deserves. As these European nations carried out all this conquest, they claimed that each conquest proved the greatness of their people, the greatness of their nation, and the greatness of their race. What was the real reason for taking over Africa and Asia?
They just wanted the land.
For what?
Oil?
Crops and like their
What do they want from these places?
Their economics, right?
They want their labor.
Well,
Their resources.
there's the word.
Yeah.
Right. I thought that's what you were after. They want their resources. They want the valuable stuff under the surface of the earth. You know, they want the diamonds and the oil and the gold and on and on. And who are they going to do the labor to get those resources?
Natives of that country.
Right, they're going to use the people that used to rule that place, but no longer do. Now that, as I said, that's the real reason for all this imperialism. It's economic. It's about resources. But that is not what Europeans usually wanted to tell you. Because honestly, does that sound very noble?
No.
No, it sort of makes you sound like a jerk, right? So instead, what they would tell you is that they were trying to civilize the backwards peoples of the globe. They're trying to civilize the Africans and the Asians. Because to hear them tell it, who are the only civilized people on the planet?
Liars.
White people. Right. And Europeans actually taught themselves